What's up, y'all? Daniel, doer, and on today's YouTube video, we're gonna do a little bit something different. So actually on my laptop, desktop, I have a Q&A call loaded that we do in the Elevated Mentorship program. So if you don't know by now, I run a company called New Era Barbering, and I have a program inside of that called Elevated Mentorship where I help barbers really build their business. If they're stuck at the 4 to 10K per month mark, they have a solid business structure. They've done the traditional model of running their business to make money, but they're stuck in like this hamster wheel, meaning like, they can't seem to scale things up and they don't know exactly what to do. We give them the systems and processes that allow them to go upwards of any like 15, 20, 30, and we're even working on somebody to get them up to 40K per month. Just cutting hair and only 2 services, haircut, and beard. It's like really all we're focused on. And this is kind of like very different than like, what traditional barbers or what typically barbers do. Now, prior to this, I've never really, allowed anybody, especially on YouTube at the very least, like an inside look of the program or just anything of that. I thought this would be interesting because sometimes a lot of the ideas I do get for either YouTube topics or podcast topics, these things do come up in like questions or problems inside of like our Q&A calls. So, inside the program, there's a curriculum where it shows you, the system process you have to use or implement to build the business up and what to do properly, what to do, what not to do. But it's also like, we have 2 Q&A calls on Zoom that we do. So we meet twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays. And anybody who wants to hop on to get help, they'll bring on all of like, their things that they, tracking sheets or anything that will give me a better idea of like diagnosing their problem and really work on it. So that's what we have right here today is one of those calls, because there's 4 topics in here that I was going to make individual videos for, but I thought it would be just an interesting dynamic for maybe even you to see like what kind of goes on inside the program. Even if somebody's interested in joining, what the hell does this thing even look like, or the interaction point, or like, just get the overall feel for it. Now, we can't go into the nuances of like strategies or scaling or, going over tracking sheets and like more the in-depth things, especially on individual barbers' businesses, because that is a little bit more personal and I don't want to breach any, I just want to be really ethical with this, right? And make sure it's fair for both sides. Like people in the program aren't like feeling like, hey, what the fuck? But still at least give you enough value to the viewer of like, wow, okay, this is actually, at least somewhat helpful. So there's really 4 topics, kind of like 4 questions or 4 things that we talk about in this video. And we'll get into that. I know this intro is a little bit longer, but just because this is a different type of video, I want to make sure I explain the context of it. The first question, was kind of just, we kind of just go over like what it means to be like number 1, especially how to keep that up and like what separates somebody like who is a number 1 status versus like an average or somebody who, burns out or whatever that may be. Because I think especially when running a business, it is important to have, you want to be number 1 at the end of the day. You're not in business or you're not in a competitive sport just to be average. So how do you get there? How do you maintain that? And like what separations between the 2? Or if you even want to call it like mastery and like a skill set or whatever you do, you can call that too. So that's like the first question that we kind of go over and like strategies and like what the mental approach for that. The second one is a little bit different. It's like at the tail end of a strategical question, so I had to cut all of that out. But this customer of the program, she wants to change. We go through in terms of like, there's a lot of personal problems that bleed the business, and we talk about in terms of like really, changing you have to change who you are in terms to get that next level of your business, because you are right now will not get there. You have to really change your habits and everything like that, and sometimes that's very, very hard. So for people who know me on YouTube, you've seen me go from like, short stubble hair to then dyeing my hair with a crop to then like I grew everything. Well, I don't even know if I was on YouTube for that, but I grew my hair out for like a year plus and my beard out for like a year plus. And then I shaved off my beard and had long hair, and then I cut my hair. Like I've gone through all these changes to where now I'm like, bald on top. I just shaved my head with a beard. And it wasn't just because of like randomness. Like it was all very methodical, and like this is just talking this customer through of like, she's looking to make that change, and make it really just comes back to making a decision, because that's what it really is, right? And some people have a very hard time making a decision. Some people sit on the fence for way too long with going in one direction, or choosing to be a part of something, or even just like they know that this is something they're gonna do, but you still don't do it. Just kind of like what can help, or like just talking her through is maybe, you know, I thought it was super valuable, and other people thought it was super valuable, so I thought I might as well throw that in there. The third question is going over, what did we go over? Oh, doers versus talkers. I think I've talked a lot about this on the podcast, as well as recent YouTube videos. What are the differences? And like we actually give a real life example. And the final one is just talking about really how to gamify business and what that looks like, and like, you know, how mental models like translate in certain other things, like playing a video game versus, you know, running a business. So again, if trying something new, this Q&A call was like 3+ hours long, I believe. So we got this down to about 40 or 54 minutes or 55 minutes of just this. So there was a lot of other stuff I had to cut out. Let me know in the comments what you think about this at the very end or throughout. If you enjoyed it, if you're like, fuck no, I never want to see this piece of shit again, whatever it is, because I thought it was very interesting and different dynamic. So without further ado, it's been like 6 minutes of an intro. Let's get right into this damn thing.
Hey Daniel, I had a question.
Yep.
So after doing a lot of, you know, I watch all the Defiant ones. Great docuseries. Thanks for putting me onto that. I think I want to go back and actually rewatch it.
Same.
But yeah, it was. How many times have you watched it now?
Only once. I went to see Joel, and like we kind of like watched a couple snippets of it, but it's just like I feel like that's something like you'll always like a really good like either book or documentary or something like that. You can watch multiple or read multiple times, and you'll like learn something new every time. It's like those always are like gems.
I feel the same way about, you know, certain movies or songs. They just never get old. They just never get old.
That's how you want like your content to be, right? Because technically, like that's how I thought about it. I was like, this isn't going to be a one-time fling where for the 3 days people are going to like watch it and then it's going to be done, right? Like shit, Greg tells me almost every call, I feel like he's like, dude, I used to love your content, right? And like I still find people just go back and like will just like a lot of shit. And you just always want that longevity, because that's what matters. Like it's like stock versus an actual company, right? Like Bezos knew that early on. A stock is like a voting machine. People just say, this is what we think it's worth. But in the long term, it's a weighing machine. Like whoever is actually like holds the most weight, actually has a good company, will still be around, right? And, you know, you can be a hot company right now in the stock, and like 5 years from now, you'll be bankrupt and not exist. Or you might not have that great of a stock, you know, of a voting machine type of like whatever people Wall Street thinks, and have Amazon.
Yeah, oddly enough, I've always told people whenever I'm talking to, well, anybody for that matter, whenever they're debating on who's going to last and who will not, I said, well, I mean, that's kind of up to the test of time. There's certain people that, you know, you may think you're hot right now, but I don't think you'll be hot 10, 15, 20 years from now. And sometimes you can back that up by, you know, looking at actual things of what made somebody last, and then looking at some.
Yeah, you could typically tell who's actually going to be good, stick around, who's not, right? Like It's pretty obvious at the end of the day. Like somebody who pisses people off, like I mean, just look at like rappers, like, you know, the SoundCloud rappers, right? The ones who piss people off the most, and like we're like, all right, this is kind of weird. I mean, they're not around, but like they're really like ones that just focus on the music and the art and like the business and making sure they were good. They're still pretty relevant. Like look at like Lil Pump versus Lil Uzi. Like Uzi just loved the music, you know, really focused on his like niche, which was just like festivals and like all this stuff to like be able to build up that cash reserves. And Lil Pump was just out here like trying to get with porn stars or something, right? Like you're just doing the wrong thing. So, you know, you could spot like the trends and like the inputs to get the outputs for longevity. It's very, very like obvious.
You know, and that kind of goes back to my question sometimes. I mean, no, that sometimes goes back to what the question I had was, being that you are someone who was able to reach number one status in a specific niche of an industry when it came to creating content and being one of the first barbers that were well known publicly for charging, the 3-figure price point. Having studied so many people throughout your time of what separated the best from the average or the trending people, after I researched, people like McQueen or even Anthony Bourdain or people, and even watching the Defiant Ones, I still don't have a clear enough answer for myself. I thought you might. What is it, do you think, separates people like Anthony Bourdain or Alexander McQueen, people who reached #1 status, and yet clearly it still wasn't enough because, obviously they wound up going down a very dark path and took their own lives, versus people who, like the Bezos or the Drakes, what, in your opinion, having been in that kind of position of level, what do you think it is separates these people who are #1 and are still just so unhappy, and the people who are #1 and still find a way to continue to grow and don't fall off?
You kind of have like conflicting question, right? So like first it was like the average versus #1s, and then the #1s who like kind of fizzle out versus #1s that continue. Those are two different conversations. So I'll kind of approach them as such. So from average to like #1, it's really like what you're optimizing for. I just optimize for perfection, right? What does this look like in a perfection mode? Like, what does a perfect business look like? Instead of like a flash in the pan type of deal. What does like a perfect like piece of content look like? It's a flash in the pan, or like something that people will love and like watch over a period of time. You can see these, you can kind of understand these principles in music or just anything else. Like what makes like a good company, products that people love, right? It's always has to do with the love, right? Like some people some people can be too hard jammed on business and just say, I'm going to go for the quick money, right? Let's say like that is like Microsoft or something, right? Really good company. Bill Gates was like the wealthiest man like for a while in the world. But then you get somebody like, Steve Jobs, who sees the inefficiency in like these products people don't really love. That's what's missing, is the love of it. And so he just made products that people love. And now Apple's the most prized possession company. Like it's the wealthiest company. It's like it can't be touched. Even Amazon can't touch it, right? It's like products that people just genuinely love. Like, I mean, when I watched a documentary on not Bezos, but Steve Jobs, I mean, people never came in people don't get that way, like mourn somebody like and are like crying over like somebody who typically like made millions. Like people you typically hate those people. They're like, oh, fuck him. But people genuinely were hurt. Like if you ever seen like the day, like they had memorials in front of like Apple stores. That doesn't happen with there's a genuine connection, and like people that are great, I think, get that. I got that with the content. People genuinely like, if I genuinely make this and love what I do, that's going to translate in my work, and people will see that and pick up on that and just naturally love this as well too. And if people love it, I mean, it's going to get like woo, but like that's kind of like the strongest thing is love, right? No matter what. Like you can have the biggest catch line or like the best marketing, spiel, whatever. Like that's kind of people like long-term wise going to find like the, kind of bullshit in that, but it's always going to be the love of like what you do. And like, some people kind of get that messed up of like only focusing on the love and never truly the perfection. So it has to do partly of love. Like you have to really be like passionate and love with like that thing that you're building, but you also have to strive for perfection and really fall in love with that perfection. And like kind of like what we're talking about with Anthony, separation between #1 and average. #1 people not only like love what they do, but they're passionate and like they're focused on the perfection more than they are just the result. Because a lot of people, in my opinion, and what I've come across, is people like the result in the short term, and that gets them really comfortable and like almost falling off, right? And like, I mean, look at like people who make it to the NBA, NFL. Like these aren't scrubs, right? These guys are not like bad athletes. They have like made it all the way through high school, collegiate level, and like gotten drafted and have made an NFL roster and got paid millions and signed a contract. Yet, what is the difference between those guys and a Mahomes and a Brady, right? It's the strive for perfection. And like, the willingness to like really, the idea of perfection, I think just really like, I think perfectionists are needed in as a personality trait, but the perfectionism can't like dictate your action level, because some people who are perfectionists just never take action because it's never good enough. But you have to understand, you have to take action to then get to perfection. Perfection is an iterated work, right? You're not born perfect. You can work your way to that. And I think people who are number one and just build great things understand that you need to take action. You need to always have that as your KPI or key performance indicator, like where are you at? And you'll wake up one day and you'll look and you're like, fuck, I did this. Like I wasn't like, I think people sometimes too, like, you know, maybe hearing like, oh man, you charge like 150, 200 bucks a cut. Oh man, what, I would have been loving it. Like, it wasn't like I was grateful, but I was still working on like, man, how can I get this up to like 500? Like, what's the next thing? What does this need to look like? Like that, your mind just is on a different gear. Whereas everybody else is just thinking about that thing and like, oh man, I made it. Or it's like, you know, that's not it. That's why, you know, some people like do it, get up to that level and then buy a Lamborghini or something. And other people like Bezos or, you know, anybody just stays in the same car because it's not what you're worried about. It's not what you did this for. You're like worried about perfection and you're still not there yet.
That's okay. I'm glad you actually addressed that, because I didn't even realize that they were two separate questions then. So that was a great answer, by the way. The second question was, what do you think separates the people who are number one, but still clearly very mentally tortured, and they just can't get over to the point where they go to such a deep, dark place where some of them take their own lives, or they just never come out of it. And the people who are clearly in the same echelon as them, but they just keep on improving.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I mean, then we get into like the 1% differences, right? Like these aren't like, these people have the same drive, and like we get into kind of mindset, which is why mindset is super like important. Like I used to not think it, but like I now realize how big of an impact mindset has on somebody. Once you get something good, some people self-destruct it, like some people sabotage, some people just like, because they don't feel worthy of like that success, and so they'll like kind of wither it away or whatever. Some people I've known personally like have gotten to number one off of like very manipulative like actions, and that's always going to come back to bite you. So some people like that wither down actually do it to themselves. So that's why you always want to have good principles, be a good person, do good business, not manipulate people, not like take advantage of people. And some people like, I don't know, I mean, like, you know, I guess you could, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it, first of all, because I mean, I don't think I mean, it's also like somebody hasn't dealt with their personal issues. I think that's the biggest thing. That's why like week 2 sometimes fucks with people, because they've never focused on those personal issues. Like, I mean, I had my fair share of shit, like, and that took me years to get through, right? It's kind of like, it's very audacious and like, I don't know, like it's kind of incredible at some, like some people might like get through that one whole week, and like it's kind of adventurous to think that somebody can get through all their problems in 1 week. Let me just put it that way, right? It takes a while, especially if you've never like addressed it and kind of hid away from it. I think that's probably the biggest thing. You know, initial conditions really matters with like people, humans growing up, like kids, like your childhood, those initial conditions, because that's how you kind of view the world and like shape and how you interact with it. And like people who kind of don't kind of sweep that under the rug or never deal with that, I mean, it's going to come back, right? You're going to like, until you like learn and like get out of that cycle, it's going to come back, whether you want to sweep it under the rug or not. It's like, you know, let's say like you live in an apartment by yourself, right? And let's say you cook all the time, and let's say all the dirty dishes that you do, instead of cleaning them, you just put them back in like the cupboard, and your apartment looks clean, but it looks clean for right now, but in the short term, you swept it under the rug. But over time, that thing's going to get stinky. There's going to be some maggots, there's going to be flies, and it's going to be rotting. And it's going to get so bad at some point in time that you're going to have to deal with it, right? And I think that's the same, like people just don't deal with those things like in the right now, and they just keep on putting it off until like everything just hits a fan, right? Like they got too high of success. Now like they have these personal issues that never got resolved. They have the stress of this plus this, and that mixtures, it's deadly, right? That's just my opinion and what I've seen from people too. Like also having really bad habits. Like I've known people who've gotten like really good results being druggies, and that's not good, because like eventually like they got really sick and almost killed themselves because of that habit. Because money, money's just like it makes you more transparent with who you really are, right? It's not like it changes you. It changes like how you decide to interact with the world, because you decide to interact with the world more authentically, right? Instead of putting up a front or putting up like these like images of like whatever, because you just feel good about yourself. You feel like, all right, I don't have to put up this image. I could just go ahead and interact with who I truly am, because I am now a little bit more confident in, just back of mind stuff, because that always does affect people too. And yeah, I think just, that's why I have like, I think it's week 6 or week 7 of just like disciplines and like good habits, like, because those are great to build on your way up, because you don't want to be at the top and like having so many personal issues that they make everything crumble back down. You want to like fix this stuff on your ascension, so it could just like, you can keep the long term. Because what does it matter if you're number 1 for like 2 weeks and break it all back down, right? It makes no sense. You just want to continue climbing, and like it's always going to be, whenever you start ascending and getting better results, it's always just added responsibility. You just have to suck it up and understand that you have more things to take care of, and that more things require you to be the number 1 and be like the leader in that thing, and not be just in bed eating hot Cheetos and ice cream and shit, right? And just, not being responsible. Like, it's just these easy things. And when you kind of see that, it becomes easy at that point in time. You're like, all right, I could stay here in bed, be sloppy, or fix my shit. And I just always decided to fix my shit, because I didn't like that. I didn't even like hot Cheetos, so it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. That's all I needed from you, sir. Thank you for helping me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that was about it. But yeah, again, just like, thank you for everything. I remember the last time I had sent you like that text about or the DM saying how embracing my opposite, and like applying like the things that I've learned from you, like the books that you've exposed me to, and like just all the advice that you've given me has like literally improved the quality of my life in like every single area. So I'm just like super grateful for the program, and like that you're my mentor and like everything. So thank you again.
Of course. Did you cut your hair?
Not yet. My hairstylist won't answer me. But
sounds like you need to take it into your own hands.
I cut my own hair. Well, it's because I want to cut it and dye it. But well, that's gonna happen within like the next month. I guess I need to find someone else to do it. But
give yourself like give yourself 2 weeks. A month's way too. You're gonna like stall on that. Give yourself a 2-week ultimatum, because like if you do that, like you're gonna be like on Instagram trying to find somebody like all hell, and like you'll find something. But give yourself like 2 weeks. It's got to get done in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you for that push. Today, well, this month I want to get the whole week 2 like done over again, and today I'm about to do the second module for week 2, but that's like the creating the new character. So yeah, I think it should happen soon. But yeah, thank you for that reminder and that push.
Get it done by next Sunday's call then. Shit.
Stop it.
Like, seriously, like you're just putting yourself up against the wall with this one. Like, you're like, I'm doing the new character sheet. I'm like, you don't want to wait on that. Like, you want to write that thing down, get real clear on it. Cause like, you don't want to give yourself time to just like be iffy, like on the fence. Like, you just want to make the decision and run, right? Like, we were just talking about it earlier, like guys like Kanye or like artists like Kanye, they make a decision and they go 100% in that direction. I don't think Kanye's like, I don't think him running for president was bullshit, to be quite honest. Like, I don't think anything he's ever said has been bullshit on his part. It's always, he's believed it to his core. And he just makes a decision based on like what he wants to go in, and he does it. And that's what really great individuals do, is they make the decision and they run in that direction, like all hell.
Okay. 2 weeks.
Seriously, like, no, like if you do it in a week, like you'll feel like honestly, you'll probably feel like you accomplished so much internally with like, you know, your mental approach, your decisiveness, your action taking. It'll probably help you like in other areas, because like there's some stalling here that doesn't need to be taking place. Like even like right now from the last call, what was it, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Like if I'm gonna make, like when I shaved my head, it was literally like I thought about it for 3 days. And then I saw a post of McGregor and he shaved it. I'm like, that's badass. I'm gonna do it. And I just literally like wrote down the new character, spent like 20 minutes doing it because I knew exactly what it wanted to do, but I had to write it down first. And I just went in the bathroom and cut it off. Right. Like it's just that it's that decisive. Like when I got my new apartment, right? Because I was moving from SAC to LA. I never seen the inside of it. I just seen pictures, but I didn't take I knew what I wanted in terms of like what it had to have and like what I was looking for. And I only like applied for places that had that structure just from like what the pictures, but somebody never took like a video. Like when I walked in, it was like the first time I actually saw it. And I was like, yep, good decision. You just like, you'll learn how to just make decisions and go fully 100% in that direction and to trust yourself. That's the biggest thing. Because when somebody's indecisive, they don't trust themselves to actually get themselves, if it was a bad decision, to get themselves out of it. Right. That's what I learned about myself. Or like they'll regret it. And that's never good either. You just want to, like, I remember when I dyed my hair, I don't think I even wanted to dye it until like maybe a day or two prior. And then I was like, fuck it, it's time. I even had to drive down to San Francisco for the girl to dye it. And so I had like a long drive to think about. I could have backed out, but like once I made the decision, it's 100% in that direction, head down. I'm like fully convinced and like full conviction. And that's just how you have to make decisions.
Okay.
You don't like
Yeah,
being, you don't like doing spontaneous things, huh?
I do, but I just have like a lot of attachment to my hair, like a lot. Like
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Joel's the same way. I'm working on that with him. I'm still on a mission to get him to go out. We're gonna hunt and kill an animal, and he's gonna eat it because he's vegan. It's gonna kill him because he's vegan. But like, I'm like, dude, you're so hard jammed on this thing, like this vegan shit. Like, let's go out and kill something and we'll eat it. Like, it's gonna like do so much mentally for you. Like seriously, like these things, they seem funny and silly, like you know, to talk about, but like when you're in the act of doing something that's like against like a, you know, something that you're mentally like you have a perception of, like those things, like I always try to look to see what those things are for me. Like when I shaved off my beard, I had never shaved since I was in high school. That was like what was that, 26, 25 at the time? 26, 25, 26. 8 years that I'd never shaved. And so like, and it was literally like, I got the idea and like literally that night I just shaved it all off. Like it was nothing. And like, when you do these things, like you trust yourself to take action on something and go fully all the way through with it. And you're not really hesitant. Hesitancy and like that decision-making can really kill a business owner. So I always find those things that like, what do I want to do? Like even when I got a tattoo on my inner lip, like I didn't know what I wanted to get until maybe like a day before. And I knew I wanted to be on my inner lip because I didn't a tattoo like that. I didn't want it to be shown for damn sure. Right. I wanted to make sure if it was a bad decision, I regret. I actually really like it. But people are like, you just thought about this the last day and it's your first one inner lip. Like, yep, let's do it. So.
cool. Dang, this was like so short, but it just gave me like so much insight on like on like everything. That's so cool. Honestly, like just been because I've been going back and forth with you a little bit more often. I feel like you can like diagnose like my business like a lot better. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Like I like to tell people like on our first, like when like they schedule a call to see if they're a good fit. I tell them like, you know your business better than I do right now, but give me a month. I'm gonna know your whole business and yourself probably better than you do, just from observing and like talking to you.
For real.
Because like that's all I do is I just observe things. Like again too, I was the only child as a kid, so like all I had was to observe things. I didn't have anybody to really talk to. And you learn how to just like, you know, kind of see patterns and stuff. But yeah, I think if you take action on it within this week, like you'll probably have like, I don't want to say a coming to God moment, but you'll have like this moment of like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like it'll be very exhilarating, and like you'll be very, it'll improve like your action taking, like your ability to like feel convicted and like run in a direction instead of questioning or sputtering out or getting off the rails. Like it'll do a lot for you in that direction.
Okay. It's gonna happen within the next 2 weeks.
Cool. Next week. Excited.
Well, I have to go back home to do it, to be honest. But
cool. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out in a week. I'm serious. Like if you if you know like this is a decision, like and you're walking in that direction, like it doesn't matter. Like even if I said like by Wednesday's call, you'll figure out a damn way.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Greg. Okay.
Because it sounds like the decision's already made. You're just teeter-tottering on that thing. Like you're like delaying it. So it's like so. It's always like, you know, you kind of always want to go back to like, why am I like delaying this thing when it's a somewhat already like probably 75-80% decision that's made? Why am I just like on the fence and still like thinking, right? Instead of just like, it's one of my strengths at least is like, I'll be fearless with things. Like, fuck it, it's we're doing it. And yeah, I mean, it just helps you as a person mostly, and helps you like, of course, as a person, you have personal problems that bleed into your business. So if you fix the personal problems like that, like making decisions and action taking, and like when you actually are more than 75-8% convinced you're going to do it, actually going through and following through, it's going to help. The sooner that you do it, after you have that like conviction, the sooner that you do it, the better that you'll actually like, the better like you'll feel about the whole thing.
Okay, I'll figure it out. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna hop off now.
Cool. Wednesday. Does anybody else have any other questions? No, good.
So I'm wondering if it's like smart for me to set like a goal as like a benchmark, or if that's not like.
Yeah, just focus, because like you'll like that's like focusing on the result versus the input, right? Okay. If anything, just set the benchmark for where we're at right now, right? Just continue doing what you're doing and set the benchmark, because like it's sometimes why I just don't look at like my yearly goals as much, honestly. Like I don't look at my yearly or anything like that, because like you can go through half the year and like it won't get closer to that goal. And then you'll get in this really bad cycle of like, oh, I suck. Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, it's terrible. And you don't need that type of like those goals can actually work against you and negatively affect like your ability to take action, you know, and build something great, because it takes time. Bill Gates has a great quote that says, you know, like people in general will overestimate what they can do in a year and highly underestimate what they can do in 10. And I think that's completely true, right? Like a year ago, people would be like, I'm gonna make 10 million. And they make like, you know, $2 in like one day, like, fuck, I'm not there. And like just like give up. And so like you should always just set the goal as like that's the optimization point again too. Like then you just strive for what does that look like? What does that have to require? Typically that requires you to be perfect and perfection, right? In some area. And so then I just optimize around perfection. And it doesn't really matter how close or far I am. I know if I get close, because if I chose that side of perfection correctly and I work at getting that, the goal is going to happen, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I actually, when I was eating breakfast with my roommate, I came to the conclusion that like following all these like I thought they were helping me, like the billionaire like mindset stuff where like it's always showing big houses and like, and it was
all
working.
All that stuff's crap.
Yeah, it was working against me because I
Yeah.
was like, I would like kind of shit on myself, like, dude,
Yeah.
why don't you have that yet? Why don't you
Yeah,
like, and it got me in bad cycles.
Yeah, it like if you look at people that I don't follow any of that stuff at all. Like I follow artists and like I follow great doers and like I follow like people who are just in the action, right? In the practice, not the theory and like not the image of it. Like they're just doing the thing. And they're not flashing it. Because like the worst thing you could do is follow somebody who's flashing it and it just makes you feel like shit. But if you're following somebody who's just doing it and that's all you see all the time is them in the action of doing, that's all you're gonna like have on your mind is just do.
Yep.
And it's just to be a doer, not a talker. Follow doers, not our talkers. Only consume doers, not talkers. Because talkers, first of all, they probably don't have as good as what they say they do. And also they'll get you nowhere close to actually having that thing at all. They'll actually make you not get there very quickly.
I asked you this, I think a little bit ago, but do you think I should throw in like a little bit of studying like doers or?
I think just like figure out who are doers. Like you don't have to go in and like completely study like, you know, you're going to write a paper on them, but like just bring them around closer to you. Just like honestly, the first thing you can do is like, don't look for doers, just audit the talkers out of your life. That's the first thing like that you should do. Audit all the talker stuff that you consume and get that thing has to get out of there. You'll get a bigger ROI out of that versus trying to find doers, right? Doers are actually very hard because they're actually in the doing. They're not going to be out there in front of your face, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that about like even like following certain people on Instagram that like are like big in the mute or like doing really well in the music industry. They never post. They don't have time for it. It's like
it's not the main thing. You keep the main thing, right?
Yep.
So talkers love to just flash it on whatever platform they can. Doers, they're like, that's not what I do, right? I make great music and that's what I'm going to do. And if I'm going to show it, cool. I'll do it here or there, but I'm not going to be, this isn't like, I'm not Instagram. I'm not a what's it called? Influencer, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what is like happening to the barber industry a little bit. Too many people will want to become influencers and like, it's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Barbering is an influence. Barbering is a business. Do that.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, dude, if you just, because you're on Apple Music, I think I sent you one Apple playlist, right? Like if you just,
that's doing wonders for me, by the way.
Dude, like
I get into the barber shop and nothing fucking matters. But nothing matters.
If you look at any other my playlists, all I have are like the doers. Like I just don't have talkers in there or just bullshit in there. Like I just have people who, because like for me, if I'm listening to something and like I know the artist and like I, you know, of course watch interviews and then I know something about them that's like kind of bullshit, I'll be like, I can't listen to this shit anymore. Like it's just conflicting and you don't want that type of conflicting like message of hearing somebody say something and like doing something else. Like, you know what's a great example of this actually? Let me pull this up. Because this is the exact, this is what the difference is between doers and talkers and what doers think of talkers, right?
Do you feel like the doer and talker thing is like something that you figured out before like reading Relentless, or do you think like you figured it out and Relentless just kind of like
Yeah, I told Joel, right? Because Joel like reads that and reads winning, and he like takes notes on it and shit. And I'm like, why are you taking notes? Like I was genuinely like, why the fuck are you taking notes on this thing? And like I just asked him blatantly, like, what do you think? What goes through your mind when you're reading this? He's like, oh, oh man, like he gave me some bullshit answer, right? And I'm like, you know what I think? I just think, wow, I was right about that. Cool. Right? Like I don't need to take notes. It's just like, cool, I knew that. Like somebody just had to articulate it for me, like in terms of in writing and like make sure that like I was thinking correctly. It's almost just backing up my whole thinking. Because people used to say that like that side of me was like, oh, that's not how you should be if you run a business. Oh man, you too much ego. Oh man, you work too much. All this bullshit, right? And like it conflicted me. So like I was like, should I? Is this bad? And then when I read that, I'm like, fuck that. I'm right. Of course I'm right.
Yeah.
Right. But this is like completely like the doers versus talkers. This is like, I remember watching this. I was like, oh my fucking God.
Time, man. Let's
like,
leave that behind.
Did you hear what Vinny Shorman said, the hypnotist that I had on the podcast? He was talking about this guy who was 60 years old who was standing on the top of a hill, and he was looking down. He was like, well, why don't you go down? He goes, no, those guys are down there. They used to bully me in high school. He's 60. Wow. And the guys who used to bully him in high school were down. He was waiting for them to leave before he went down.
That's sad.
Whoa.
Like he was looking down.
You know what happened to me? I got bullied for a full year, and it turned me into a fucking, if somebody tried to bully me, I'll show up at your fucking house and kill you. That's what happens. I get so angry.
I'm not buying that even remotely.
Like that. I hate when
hey,
that's
bro,
not true.
You fucking bully me.
If I
you try bullying me right now, motherfucker.
You know what your problem is?
Hold on, let me handle this.
Here's your problem. You've talked to too many guys that let you say shit like that, and then it becomes like vernacular. It becomes like a part of the way you talk.
This is what I do. Brian, look at
all those people that I know, all those people that when I first met you, all those people you used to hang around with, those are all toxic, and they've ruined the way you're allowed to communicate with people.
That's true.
Because they said stupid shit, and then you said stupid shit, and it was okay.
If somebody fucks with me, bro, look at how my. What do you have to say to me,
bro? I watched a scary movie with him.
Bro, I'm gonna have to shut this podcast off.
Not yet. Not yet. We have to hold on.
I watched a scary movie with him, and it was the most annoying thing ever.
Tell you what,
he goes,
I would fuck this guy
I fucking wish a demon would grab me, man. You know what I would do? And I'm like,
I get mad.
Why are you talking to me like this?
It's not that you get mad. It's that you hang around with people for a long time. You hung around with people that allowed you to talk like that.
No.
Without mocking you.
Who aren't tough.
Who aren't tough.
Bros. Bros, listen up. I will fuck some. You bully me, bro. I don't give a shit about your UFC bullshit. I will fucking come right at you.
I could pin you on the ground right now and put my dick in your mouth.
You could try.
For no reason.
You could try. And guess what?
Just because it's the nice
Guess
Saturday.
what? I would fucking come right to your house. Bang, bang, bang.
No, you'd be dead.
Joe.
Would I?
Yep. He needs friends like us because he gets around saying that with guys who don't know.
Well, he hangs around with a lot of idiots. There's a lot of people that he hangs around with that are full of shit.
Oh, God.
That they're dumb. They're indulgent.
I feel sick. I feel sick.
Look at Brendan agree.
I feel sick.
You do. You hang out with a lot of people that are such bullshit artists.
No, I
and
don't.
You don't.
My good friends.
Yeah, you know.
You know who I'm talking about.
You have friends that are bullshit artists, and you don't even realize they're bullshit artists.
You know who.
Yeah.
You know why.
You know you do, and you've had them from the moment I met you.
But they lie to each other.
Mm-hmm. I met Brian in '94. He was surrounded by idiots. I was like, what's going on here? Who are these fucking people?
Come on, man.
That try to drag you away. Slowly but surely, I pushed those people off cliffs. Slowly but surely, I separated him from most of them.
They were like, hey, your friend doesn't like me. I was like, well, Joe's a little hard. He's a hard
came close to marrying one of them at a certain point in time. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everybody else was like, good luck, brother. Everybody else like, good luck, brother. You know, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? You out of your mind? It's just me and Patty. We're the only ones who are telling him, get the fuck out of here. You're not marrying her.
Joe did save me.
Dude, I'll meet people.
That's like a great just video of like doers versus talk. Like he's talking to two people who have been doing MMA for the rest, like their whole life, dude. Like Joe Rogan, like been like doing MMA and like fighting since he was like 20 years old. It's like 50 now. Brian Callen, I mean, like all those, like those. The other guy was like a comedian, right?
Yeah.
It's just like that's the difference between doers and talkers. Talkers think they can do it and they'll talk their game up, and like to doers, you're just like, shut the fuck up. Like, yeah, like you could just see that shit right through them easily.
I look for like stuff like that, like when I'm out and about, like if I do leave my house, like Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm already learning stuff like that because I pay attention to it while I'm out and about and not at the house. So
Yeah, but that's just like, again, too, just like get like for what you consume too, just get used to like consuming only like doers and get the talkers out of your like way. Like that's why
yeah,
I don't listen to the Gary Vee, don't listen to like Grant Cardone, definitely not Ty Lopez or anything like that. Like just these people are just, they're more into the talking and like getting attention and like being loud, right? Like the
yeah,
loudest person in the room isn't like the strongest, right? It's typically that quiet person that's just like reserved, and like that person will probably kill you. The loud one's just putting up a front.
so I'm pretty confident about this one. So there's, I don't know if you've heard of him or if you follow him, but I think you would actually like this dude. It's Peter Crone. He's on Instagram. He's called the Mind Architect.
I don't really like that like stuff like that.
No?
If you're calling yourself the mind architect, you're already like trying to pump up your like perception, right? Like Jordan Peterson doesn't talk about like he's the philosopher's philosopher or anything like that, right? He's just like, I'm just fucking
Yeah, I think it is that like I don't think he gave himself that name. I think what happened is like other people called him that so much that he kind of like just it's like fuck it, whatever. Like I guess I'll adopt that name. But the dude is when it comes to like actually he kind of talks a lot of, I don't remember who we were talking about it with, but like about how like from when you're born to like a certain age is when you kind of like learn everything. And he like he talks a lot about like that realm, like unlearning like bad behaviors, like a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like again, too, I'm careful with who, because like, dude, especially in today's world, anybody could fucking start their Instagram and become like a motivational speaker and speak on stage and now
Oh yeah.
like that's why I like Jordan Peterson, because he was a Toronto like professor. This is what he did, right? He did teach this. It wasn't like he knew just how to speak, because like most people, what they do, they know how to speak on stage, they know how to sound emotional, they know how to sound motivating, and so they grab a fucking mic, get a quick clip of them on stage in front of people, and now people think they're important. So I just go with like, what's your background? Jordan Peterson. He really didn't even get famous until like 5 years ago, and he was still a professor at that point in time, and he still practices like, being professor and talking on things. He just has a bigger stage now. Those are like the doers. The talkers, again, too, they'll see the opportunity. We grab a mic. You could fucking do it. And like, they'll get into like all the hype shit. I don't like, I'll read right through that. Like, cause again, too, like what's your true motivation? Is it to like actually like change people's thinking, or like because you have something to say, or is it just like this perception of how you want to be seen in the world?
Would you mind going to his page then and like just telling me like
if he has like posts of him like on a stage, I'm gonna be super biased. What's his Instagram?
Peter Crone.
How do you spell Crone?
Crone.
Oh, Peter Crone official.
Yeah.
Well, what did he used to do? Like these are the questions you should just ask. Like, like whenever I try to like, if I'm gonna invest in something, I'm just like, well, what did this person do? Like before, right? What were their results? What were they like focused on? What were they like around?
Like that's something I'll have to.
That's all you have to look for, right? Like,
yeah,
because there's a lot of people like this, like author and speaker. Dude, I could write a fucking book and talk on a barber stage and just put author and speaker in my bio. like all these things I just call bullshit on. Like, most of the things that say like featured in Forbes and like entrepreneur, like all these, like you ever see like those marketers that have stuff like that?
Yeah.
They buy all that stuff. That stuff's fake. You know that, right? Like you can buy places in articles in Forbes.
That's great.
Like I remember there was a time when I was like, man, you know, it'd be tight as if like a barber who created a program who's doing $200 haircuts and like helping people grow was in the Forbes 30 under 30. And that was an actual goal of mine, right? Until I learned all that stuff's fake and you can just buy a place in there. And I was like, fuck that. Like, cause like if something like that is like, even if not anybody knows it, like it's the right people that you want to work with are going to figure it out, right? That only fools the unaware, right? Stuff like that, the smoke and mirrors fools the people who just are not aware of that thing. Once I became aware of that, I'm like, fuck that, because I view those people now like they're not worth anything. And bestseller, anything with a bestseller in their bio, I'm like, nope, bullshit. Like I'll read the book and be the critic of that. I'm not going to buy that. This is all like marketing and like positioning. Like,
yeah,
you can't bullshit me.
Like, yeah, like trying to seem like you have a certain image. Yeah, I'll kind of have to look into him, but I know for a fact that like a lot of people seek him out to like for like their podcasts for.
A lot of people seek out Gary Vee and Grant Cardone. That doesn't mean that I'm going to listen to them. Yeah, I'm not going to seek either of them out, right? Like they're good. They're good at like creating buzz, right? But I'm not going to follow Gary Vee to create an agency because, like, Jesus Christ, if you ever looked at the reviews for his agency, some of the worst things I've ever seen before. I've read, like, you could see, like, it's because it's public information. You could see that people that even work there in the past just say that everybody that works there, all they do is they're on their phone creating like podcasts or stories for their own brands. So he just created an environment of leeches, of people who want that same thing, and they just gravitate towards him, right? Like probably the same thing with Grant Cardone's company. I actually did business with like his company, and like I got out of that thing because it was just like the people there are pretty shitty in terms of like how they take care of their customers. And even when you're trying to get out, it was like a shitty experience. I was like, no way in hell I'm ever gonna, like, I'm not supporting this thing. I see right through that. So again, too, people can create the perception that something's good. Reality of it, well, you could see that on the inside. Like that's why I just focused on the reality of this thing. What is it on the inside? I kind of let the perception of it like kind of like deteriorate, right? Because I just haven't been keeping up. So like I'm more active like on YouTube and podcasting because I know that's an important side now. But like before, I was just like, I need to just get the inside correct because it doesn't matter if like Anthony, Angel, and Greg got into this thing and they saw it was a piece of shit. That doesn't matter what the perception is. They're always going to think in their minds like they get out there and be like, fuck that, dude's a fucking piece of shit liar. Yeah, I don't want that for a company. Like you don't want that for a haircut either, right? Like it's just simple like good business principles.
Yeah. Okay. Dope.
Yeah. Angel or Greg, did you guys have a question at all?
Just something I was thinking about when it came to the 30-day attack. So I know there's the check the results after 24 hours and then after 30 days. I took that like super literally though. So I'm like thinking for each post, like what I would do mentally is like, all right, I'm gonna put in my calendar, check this post 30 days from now, and then the next day 30. So is it like that, or just like kind of get like a cumulative like after 30 days? How did they,
exactly
like
yeah. Once that 30 days is up, then you just check back over everything.
All right, cool.
You could do it the other way, I guess, if you want to, but I think that's a lot more work.
It is. That's why I got overwhelmed and I was like, wait.
Nah, just after that first 30 days, just go back through everything. And then, because you like what should happen ideally is after the 30-day attack, of course, the results at the beginning are going to be shitty, but towards the end, things will be building up. And the things that like closer to the end of the 30 days will be better than the things that got like 25 plus days.
So like, I mean, obviously, if I do it that way, where I wait until the end, like my most recent post won't, right? It won't technically have that full 30-day result, right? Like, so like, is that fine?
Yeah, I mean, what you could do if you really want to have a buffer, really, it's just like 5 days. Give it a 5-day buffer, and then that it should get the majority of the results at that point in time. Until like, that's why in like DNA splicing that we go 5 posts and we don't judge off of that because not everything got a good enough and a fair chance. So we jump down to the second post and work on that. And then once we get done with that 5 days, let those other incubate for 5 days, we come back and then select a winner.
This is so fun to me just thinking about it. Cause like this is how my brain normally thinks about things. Like I just didn't know how to do it at on a business level. But this is how I like do life. Like I've been studying people like I was in a relationship for 8 years, got out of that relationship, been completely solo. Like I don't even talk to girls or anything like that in 2 years, and continuing. And like I've just been studying people, and I've just learned so much. So like when this came in, I'm like, it's like another game. Like that's just how everything's just an experiment. I'm like, what if I respond in this way? What does that do? It's fun. So I'm excited.
I mean, I've said it before. It just we gamify business at the end of the day. We don't out hustle anybody. Like that should be a prerequisite. You know how to like work hard, right? But that's not what brings this thing up. Like it's strategy. I mean, I like war, right? War is strategy. Business is the same thing. It's strategy. And you just got to like really think, well, what if this, what if this, what if this, and just have everything like it just gamifies it, makes it real fun, like you said.
Yeah. So I'm excited, learning all these new things. The freaking the DNA splicing thing. I was like, what the flip am I looking at? You were explaining it, and as you were explaining it, I'm like, oh my, that's so brilliant. Like, I don't know, exciting. And because it's organized as well. All right, instead of wasting time waiting while this like incubates, we're moving on to the next thing. And then like by the time you're like working on something, you check back in, it's like, all right, this is good to go. It reminds me of this game I used to play with my nieces and nephews in Florida called Overcooked. It's a chef game. So it's like you play as a chef, you can play solo or you can play with up to 4 people. And like you're basically running a restaurant. So you have like certain ingredients that you have to cook. Like there'll be like chicken, there'll be shrimp, rice, steak, burgers. And like, if you guys don't coordinate or like organize some type of system, like you're going to fail. So there's a goal you have to hit. If you don't complete the orders in a certain amount of time, it'll take away money. So let's say you're doing good, you're on a streak, you accumulate a certain amount of money, but like your orders are starting to not get fulfilled because you didn't complete them in time. It starts docking away. But like it literally just tells you like, hey, here are the ingredients, go. And then you get to figure
it out. I think video games, honestly, like that, like strategy games, like Anthony or Greg, like if you've never played a game like that, like there's one that I would recommend. I really liked it. Like maybe that's a good one. I also liked this. It was this game. It was it had two things to it. It was basically like you either save the world from a pandemic virus, and this came out like 5 years ago, or you can infect the world with a pandemic virus. I always like infecting the world, so I like that one. That one was always fun because you could do 2 different modes, but like it's the same thing. Like those games, they don't tell you how to play. You just have to figure it out. And it's the same way how you do business, right? Nobody tells you really how to do it. You just have to figure out the components, figure out the right ways. And honestly, it took like, I remember when I first played the game, and I even played it most recently too, because I just wanted to go back into it. It was just really fun for me. But the beginner mode, like, because you don't know what the hell you're doing, you'll always get your ass kicked until like you kind of like think about it and like, all right, what am I really trying to do here? What do I need to do to accomplish this? And then I would wipe through the beginner mode, wipe through the next mode, and then like the next level up. And maybe that like medium mode would like trick me a little bit. And then you figure out how like a better combination of things, how to like infect the world more. And then you get to the hard mode, and then you're like, oh, I know how to do this thing. And like, that's the real battle. And like, it'll be hard at first, and then you'll figure out how to like really optimize it. And then it's just like, it's too easy. Like I really always loved those strategy games.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why like I'm with this, because like that's literally what happened in Overcooked. Like when I played with my friend, it was like difficult at first or whatever. And I'm like, dude, this is not that hard. Just like he really considered it. He's like, as soon as the level would start, he'd be like rushing through things. And I'm like, this isn't efficient. So I would just do what I can or whatever. And then once I played, like, so he was further along because he was playing with his wife or whatever. So they got pretty far. I went home, downloaded the game, and it's meant to be with 2 people. So if you play by yourself, you have to manage 2 people.
Oh, yeah.
Do it one at a time. So it's not like you can simultaneously move both characters. You have to move one, jump to another, and then that's stuck, and he's not doing anything. But at different levels, the map is also moving too. So like, let's say you have a cutting board on one side of the map, or like of the kitchen, and then you have the oven on the other. And then like there'll be like a row of like cutting tables, or just like tables down the middle that will separate in half, and they rotate. So if you're stuck on one half, you need to get to the other. Like you got to figure it. And and I did it all by myself. So
you got to
like,
that's like, you got to really find a good rhythm. It's the same thing. Like you'll be overwhelmed at first, and then you just kind of slowly, the more you do it, you're like, oh, I should do this. Oh, I just only need to do these inputs. And you're like, why am I even focused on doing this? Let me just do this more and only focus on this. And then I just do it in this like tempo. And like, that's like that's like complete practice. Like we get out of theory and you're just in the flow of like pure strategy. And I think like business is exactly the same.
Yep. And that's what I'm noticing. That's why this is exciting to me, because it's like real life example of that. So like it makes it real easy for me to be like, bro, time up. So in the game, it's like there's all this stuff going on. It's like, oh, that's pretty, that's cool. Oh, snap, the map is, but we're still doing the same thing. And you still got to do this, this, and that. And then it's like, so like I noticed he gets overwhelmed with all that. He's like, wait, what's going on? I step back and I just stop moving. And I'm just like, okay, everything is in the exact same place. The only thing that changed was the background. So I'm like, we do the same thing. It's like, calm down. Nothing's happening. Stay focused. It's the same thing. It's the same game.
Yeah, it's the same mentality too. When everybody starts hitting panic button, just like calm it down. What are you observing? What needs to be done? What's the goal? Get it done.
Yep.